So why is this $290? Well, we're going to try to find out.
Spiky Bits.
Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. I'm Rob Baer from SpikyBits.com, and we have a riddle to solve. So the new Necromunda Dark Uprising box is here, and everybody seems to have something to say about it. It's $290, much like the Titanicus Grandmaster Edition as well, which was a little bit easier to wrap our heads around value-wise, although some people didn't agree with it either. But with this particular product, it's a lot to try to figure out. And some of the clues to the box itself have come from actually us looking through it and trying to figure out what exactly is going on here. So this is going to be a very interesting unboxing and review, and we're going to actually try to put a bunch of it together and kind of show you just how cool it is, because let's face it, the terrain looks dope AF. But the price, maybe not so much, as a lot of people have remarked online. So first up, this box is ginormous. This is probably the biggest box I have ever seen for Games Workshop that wasn't, I guess, the Realm of Battle board, perhaps. So it's a solid 6 inches. Yeah, that's right. Solid 6 inches thick all the way around. And, well, it's got a lot inside of it, which we're going to show you here in a second. But let's flip it over and take a look at the back side here, because that's important. Claim that it's made in the UK, so none of that Chinese sprues and things like that. Looks like they cranked it all out in the UK, which probably means it's going to be a limited of some, consistency, because, it's not like they're cranking these out every day at their manufactorium there in Nottingham. It does come with 15 corpse grinders, 6 of the new Riot Shield subjugators, and 5 of the old enforcers, which is the set that came with 2 of the same sprues, of which you've already seen. So you get kind of like a halvesies type deal right there. I don't know if that matters in the game. I guess there's probably new rules in here, which I've already kind of looked through, but I forgot to check. But we'll figure that out here in a few minutes. The corpse grinder, so you get 25 models, and you get all of this right here. And a rulebook. But it's not the same as the hardcover rulebook that came out 2 years ago when Necromunda released about this time back in 2017. Once you open this beast up, there is a lot going on in here. So like I said, there's 17 sprues? We'll go with 17, final answer. 17 sprues in here, 2 of which are old, which you see right here on the top. We've seen these before. Actually, we've reviewed these before here on the channel, but we'll talk about that more here in a second. I'm just going to kind of throw those out to the side. And then you kind of dig down, and you're going to get multiples of each sprue, and we'll divide that up and kind of show that to you here in a second. And then, of course, you're going to get the figures as well that come in all that. But I mean, we're talking a grip of sprues here, folks, a literal grip of sprues. So let's set those aside, talk about this a little bit. So they got the little protector poster in here, which is actually pretty cool, and it comes with a little poster on the back of the existing expansions right there, or gangs, whatever you want to call them. Then you've got the bases, a couple of extra size bases right there. I'm not sure what that's all about. Classic. Actually, I want to check what is the copyright on this? Because the old 3rd edition box set came with something like this in 1998. Yeah, that's it. So this is actually probably the same sprue and the same plastic from the old 3rd edition Warhammer 40k box set from 1998. Kind of interesting right there. I hadn't seen one of these in a while. And then they went to green for, I don't even know when the green ones came out. And then I think they had a limited edition red one. There might have been some blue ones for Apocalypse. So all sorts of different cards here. Dark Uprising card deck. We're not going to really talk about that. Bases, some new looking dice. They're not translucent. They're not as cool looking as the ones that they're selling separately this week. And then you've got the instruction manuals, the book itself with a quick reference card. Now this is labeled as Dark Rising itself, so chances are that that's something different. And then your tokens, some baggies for things, some decal sheets, a range rule, and this very, very thin matte board. So before we get to models, let's talk a little bit more about the contents of the box. So yes, of course, the dice are going to be great, and the bases are going to be great, and you got a range rule and some decals, and some card decks here that are probably going to go a lot, have a lot to do with the campaign in this book right here. But there's probably some other stuff in here, and I'm not going to open this, that have a lot to do with the game itself. So I don't feel like super have the need to get into that. But I do want to talk about the Dark Uprising book, because this is different from the normal Necromunda hardcover book. It's $60. I think there's a new version out that collected up all the FAQs, and you need that in the Gang Wars book to kind of have everything all together. But this is more on the Dark Uprising itself. And then here you can see the contents, where it kind of breaks down what's going on in here. So you get the normal rules contents, you get stuff like that, but you also get the Dark Uprising scenarios. And then, of course, it's going to focus on those 2 gangs that come in here as well, and then all your skill traits and charts and things, right? But here's the thing, like, I was reading through this because I thought Necromunda was played on a 4x4 board. And then if you do, like, 3-dimensional terrain, I thought in the old book, and obviously, folks, correct me here, because I'm not an expert on things Necromunda. I just remember from year to year kind of what we talked about and talking with some of the folks here that in town that play the game, that it was supposed to be on a 4x4, but functionally, you know, you would play it on a 3x3 because it was really hard to get up and down if you started doing 3-dimensional. And there was rules for Sector Mechanicus stuff, and then there was rules for, you know, just playing on the normal Zone Mortalis, which previously was Forge Roll. So here they kind of explained, like, what's a door, what's a barricade, and there's the barricade sprue, which we already saw in here, and then there's your tokens, and, you know, just normal stuff. So then it kind of talks about the fluff of, like, what's going on at this Dark Uprising of this hive and all that stuff. But then it gets to the rules sections, and it doesn't say anything about how big the table is supposed to be. Now, this table, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it's a 2x2 fold out, 2x2 square feet. So you would literally need 4 of these if you wanted to emulate the 4x4 Necromunda playstyle of the, you know, the Necromunda box, which I don't know if that's necessarily a good idea because, well, this is $300 for this box. So, but this is more on the Zone Mortalis side and not the Necromunda side. So I think if you want to play Zone Mortalis, it's okay for this box. But there's some more clues in here that we're going to talk about here in a second. You can see it's just the normal rule stuff in here. So this, a lot of this is straight out of the normal book. And then they talk about Sector Mechanicus and some of the solid structures. And then they talk about Zone Mortalis. And, you know, everything's assumed to be a locked door. You know, stuff here about you don't measure through walls and the thickness and things like that. So I really don't know what to make of it. I don't think the size super matters. So you can play Zone Mortalis on this 2x2, or you can play, you know, Sector Mechanicus, but you're not going to have, you would just kind of have to treat stuff that comes in this box because it's not all Sector Mechanicus, so to speak. So I think that's an easy to get my mind around in things. Like, even though maybe you're supposed to be playing on a bigger table, if you play traditional Necromunda and you're using the 3-dimensional rules and you're using the Sector Mechanicus, you can still play on this. That's fine. And then it's going to come with all the, you know, the upgrades and things and scenarios, and that's cool. Okay, fine. I'm okay with this, and I think this is a good, maybe you can get this, and then maybe you can add the Gang Wars book to it. Obviously, somebody chime in here that knows a little bit more about Necromunda. Quick reference guides on the back. You know, you always got to have these. They're really great for Titanicus, and I feel like having these and just, you know, just boop, put them right in your book, and you're good to go there. So here's where the proverbial plot thickens, and I don't know if you've seen this, and I wasn't tracking this. You got your typical card, you know, style tokens here, punch out. This might actually be, nope, this is a new one, it's copyright 2019, but it's very similar to the one that came in the Necromunda starter box back in 2017, right? Okay, cool, that makes sense. I'm on board with that. But here's the play surface. And this is where it gets really interesting. So this is a vinyl. You can literally hear it. This is a vinyl surface. It's not card, it's not fold out, it's not the board game style like you saw, you know, normally it's this style right here that folds out. And it's definitely not the plastic tiles that they sell separately. It, you know, for the most part, it folds out fine. It's a 2x2. They've got that really cool striking red on the back. It looks like it would fold flat over time if you leave it out. The only thing I'm concerned about with this is potential for scratches, because I've seen this material before and it actually looks like, is that the material? No, that's the design. I've seen material like this before for X-Wing mats, and over time they can get scratched and it becomes an issue. But I've been sitting here scratching this, making noise with it, and it doesn't look like it's done any detrimental effect to it. So maybe GW has come up with some secret sauce to kind of keep this from getting jacked. Although you can see the little indentations I put into it, there is no damage to the surface itself, which is really cool to see because this is actually pretty light. So having this and then having all your terrain, lugging that around will be a lot heavier than lugging this matte surface around. But if you want that total immersion, they have the floor tile set for $65. this is interesting offering, how they, you know, a lot of the pictures and stuff had this stuff in it. There's 4 tiles that come in this, and this is an interesting configuration, because previously we saw them release the Realm of Battle boards in 2x2 squares, and now we've got a 1x1 square right here, which is really interesting. So you get this board, which is the same board, 2 of the same board. You think I would do my research? Wait a minute, no way. These are all the same? I thought they were different styles. That's crazy talk. Okay, sure. So they're literally the same board. You get 3 of them, which kind of makes sense price point wise and manufacturing wise. I get it. But that's a little disappointing, to be quite honest. Okay, anyways, so let's see if these lay flat. So, because we know with the previous boards there was an issue with them laying flat. They seem, well, this isn't a flat surface, so that's an unfair comparison. So there will be a little bow here, but I can tell you on the flat surface, okay, it lays flat, and it looks like once you start putting stuff on here, which we hope to do, hope to get some of this together and show it to you in this video. Don't hold me to it though, because this is a lot of work. But it looks like they might actually kind of lock in. Like, you've got some 3-dimensional areas here that look like, let me get some better light on this because we're all out of whack here. So you got a lot of 3-dimensional raised surfaces here, which is really cool to see. So it'll be a hoot to paint, and you can definitely airbrush it and dry brush it and have some real fun with this. On the back, you've got the superstructure, looks pretty sound, to be quite honest. I mean, those are nice spacing on pressure and things. I don't think there's any issue there. Again, I'm gonna put it flat, and it tends to bow up a little bit, but if you leave these laying out, gravity will probably do its thing. Don't hold me to that. So this set is $65. Injection molded sprues. It does say that they were made in China, developed in the UK, so this part at least of the set was made in China. Moving on to the gangs themselves, they come with individual instruction manuals, and it got me thinking. So you get, we went over what you get in here. You get 1 sprue of the subjugators, which are the dope dudes with the riot shields, and this looks to be the only way that this kit is going to come, which is interesting. And these are also on 32 mils, where these guys are on 25s, and some of the corpse grinders are on 32s, but some of them are on 25s as well. You get 1 sprue of the Palatine Enforcers, because a box makes up 2 sprues. But it looks like a box makes up 2 sprues of the corpse grinder cult over here, but you get an extra 1. You get 15 of these guys. You get 6 of these guys, or excuse me, 5 of these guys, and 6 of these guys. So it almost looks like you get kind of like halvesy boxes right here, but with this, so maybe these guys are that powerful in game. The rules obviously are in that book right there. Just an interesting observation. And before we jump to the sprues, let's talk about the corpse grinder cult. So it's just like you would imagine in Necromunda. You have body styles, right? That there's a couple of different styles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you can do different poses based on what accessory bits you put on there. And some of the bits, they don't have multiples on, and some of them they do. Like for over here, you've got, you know, there's only part 129, but you could put that on 2 different bodies right here. So over the course of 10 models, they're gonna look different, which is really neat. And then I also like how they give you like extra different parts, so you can do different, like, possible build skinners, initiates here with the different heads and stuff that they don't show you because it's exactly the same, just with different heads. And then they give you warnings of what bits will go together and what won't. So that's really cool to see. And then there's the 10 different builds, like in theory, that you can make, not with all the accessory parts. And same thing with the Subjugator Patrol. You know, you just kind of do the little swaps and things. So there's body 1, there's body 2, and there's body 3. So depending on which one you want to do, you just kind of flip them out. So I don't know. I think there might be 3 to a sprue, but we'll check that here in a second. We're not going to really cover the Enforcer Patrol because that already came out. So here's the Corpse Grinder sprue itself, and we need to take a look at that in some better lighting. So just like I was mentioning earlier, you get 3 of those, but potentially you only need 2 for when the box set comes out by itself. You know, but it's hard to say when that'll be or if that'll even be, but it seems to be at least every quarter they come out with some sort of Necromunda release. But here you can see the different parts, from the close combat weapons right here to the different extra, where's their, oh, I guess they're all close combat weapons. Okay, and there's some of the bone sprues or bone spikes that they said they didn't go with part 11 on that back piece right there. Which one's part 11? Oh, the part 11 is the head that only goes with that one, with that right there. So just to give you an idea of how all that goes, so you've got 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3 of the big dudes, 2 of the initiates. So this would make 2 of these sprues would make the 10-man squad, but they give you 5 of them. So we'll put one of these together and kind of see how it goes. So there's the different heads that we talked about. They look like football helmet heads. I don't know what's going on right there, but we'll check that out here in a second. And then for the enforcers, the same deal. You get a sprue of 3 models, but remember, a box is probably going to be 6 because they show you 6 on the instruction manual. So you've got that cool grenade launcher with the battering ram, some little baton, enforcer baton things. There's the grenade launcher, and then all the different kits, which seem to be pretty intricate. I mean, you basically get the top, you get the bottom, the legs go on separate, and you kind of have to follow the instructions and pick one way to go. But you can build this sprue one way and then this sprue the other way, which we're talking about, where you can do the head swaps and things. But man, those riot shields are super tight looking. I love that thing right there. Okay, so here's one put together, and you can see looks pretty awesome with the grenade launcher and sidearm right there. I mean, it's just, you know, holding the line, blasting somebody. Got this really cool intricate back right here. And man, I'm just really digging this model. It just looks good. The posing's good. Everything is good right here. Nice, well detailed. Even the, he's got his little riot blast shield visor kind of flipped up. So that's really neat to see. And this is on a 32mm base. And here's how he compares to something like a Primaris Space Marine. So still a human size, although he has a little bit of armor, maybe a little too much for a enforcer of the Underhide, but I don't know how all that works. I don't know how all the fluff works in the grimdark future, but there he is right there, and definitely probably the right scale size considering he has armor on. And then here's one of the Chaos Cultists with double chain axe, wicked looking things right here. I don't even know what those are, but man, this guy looks super fresh. Look at all that detail on his tabard, and he's got little belts and hooks and things kind of hanging off some sort of exosuit that looks like it's been reappropriated for battle, but he just has pants on. Goes into battle wearing chest armor and pants. Something's obviously going on with his head and or helmet. I don't know what's going on with that, but yeah, he looks splendid. I love this guy. This is pretty dope right here. Remember, you can make 2 different versions of this one as well. So how does he compare to a Primaris? Well, probably suitable size, yeah. I mean, he is a little bit bigger, so he's infused with some power of the Dark Gods. He's the, you know, little gang leader sort of thing right there. But I think one-on-one, we know who would win this matchup. And then the 2 models together themselves, they're both on 32mm bases, so appropriately sized right there, and they look great. We're having a little old-fashioned Necromunda standoff right there. So great looking styling, great looking builds, and I guess it's time to take a look at some terrain. So the plot continues to thicken here as we start digging into the terrain. These are the individual instruction manuals that the box set came with. You get 3 of them. Thermoplasmic conduits, we've seen this already. That was a $35 release, but it's branded for Necromunda right there. Then you've got Zone Mortalis platforms and stairs and columns and walls right here. So it looks like these are going to be separate kits at some point. Otherwise, they wouldn't print up these instruction manuals. Also, the one single sprue of barricades is nowhere to be found in here. So I guess, I don't know what they expected people to do, to just kind of, I don't know, cut them out and put them together, because that's literally all you have to do. They just stand right up, so no big deal there. So how this goes together is really interesting. Everything is very modular. Like, don't glue the tops on to your columns right here. This is the platforms and stairs. So once you put the bulkhead and not the top floor plate on, then you can kind of arrange it depending on how you want, like using the little spacers right here to kind of lock in, and you can build assemblies around it, but those also kind of pop out. Then for the stairs, it looks like you'll probably have to use the support strut and then use one section here to kind of glue it to and set up your second story. But then you can glue or not glue, I don't know yet, but I would imagine that you can just attach a stairwell to that point right there, and then you snap on your rails. You can have this lift thing over here as well, depending on how you want it. You get 2 sets of this right here. So you can have it going left, right, straight, up and down, like this, however you want. And then this one right here is just a 2 strut with no landing. that goes all the way up that you could also use for some sort of configuration like this, depending on what you do. And they show this right here. But then the key is to keep the tops off right here, because these top floors lock in, and this is how you set everything up, it looks like. And then there's rails and optional parts. And then the back of all of these sections kind of explain how the terrain goes together using the modular floors, which we showed you already, or they say you can just kind of lay out the floor mat if you want. So it's kind of weird. They only show you 12 of these bulkheads, or 12 of these columns that go up, or excuse me, 9. But there's 12. It comes with 12. So I don't know what that's all about quite yet. And then you have the single bulkheads here and the double bulkhead sections, your sections of stairs, and then your doors as well. Each sprue makes 2 small doors and 2 big door sections, and they do slide out, which I'm going to show you right here in this instruction manual. So here's how you put together the columns, and you're not supposed to glue the tops in. So what happens is you can use the bottom, don't glue it, to set them into, and then you just kind of glue the sides so that way they're secure. And then you can put these different little doohickeys or accessories on the side, which actually line up with the plasma conduits, which you're going to see in the back. And then here's the smaller doors and larger 2 doors right there with a little terminal on it, because remember, they're assumed to all be closed regardless. And then here's your single bulkheads, and you can flip out the tops depending on what style you want. And there's a bunch of different styles right here that you can kind of see with the servos in there. And then the double bulkhead right here. And then it just goes into more of the explanation about all of that. And then you can see where the plasma conduits will lock in to those sections right there, be freestanding, or they can even go vertical if you double stack the columns. So that actually might be why they only shows you 9 columns right there, because there's 11. So maybe there's another one. Well, either way, you're gonna have one floating somewhere. Oh, there it is. So that is all 12, so you can go vertical. Okay, so that makes more sense. Whew, let's take a look at the sprues. So first up, we'll show you, well, remember, you're gonna get 2 of these, so it doesn't kind of matter. This is the floor sprue. So these are gonna be the central areas that will go inside of those columns. That's why you leave them separate, so you can slot these into, and then these little pieces right here lock into here, and I'm not sure if you have to glue them yet. We'll find out. There's your rails, your ladders, and things like that. So you get 2 of those. And then here's the larger one with the stairwell on it. And I really like, and I'm just assuming because, let's try it. Well, not for resin. Let's try it for these guys. Yep, okay, so if you have the plastic base, these guys will literally sit on the stairs, which I think is probably the neatest thing out of all of this, because you ever try to place guys like this on stairwells, they never work. But GW has thought of it here, and I give them mad props for that. That's solid design work right there. So you got your 3-tier section right here, which also locks in to the center columns. And then you've got your bulk, or your elevator thingy right here, your support struts for these, more rails, and I think this has manhole covers or something, depending on how you want to build it around one of your columns. Now, why is all this important? Well, because it looks like, and this just dawned on me too, this is why they're doing them as separate kits, and then you can also buy this in this format. If you just buy this without the floors, you're going to have something that looks like the traditional set of Necromunda that we already saw. But remember, they had those bulkheads and things, and people didn't quite like it. They wanted something more like Zone Mortalis. Well, here's your more like Zone Mortalis, but not quite Zone Mortalis. And then if you buy the flooring section and the stairs, you can get it all super pimped out and do whatever you want with all the thermal conduits and things like that. So it just kind of depends. It's like, hey, nice base coat table, boom, boom, boom. You buy the big set, which will probably be the price of a starter because it's like 12 sprues. Or you buy the extra 2 sprue set and you add your landings, your floors, and all your other cool things. And if you want to add thermal conduits, it's $35. So now it's starting to make sense why this is a $290 kit. Because I was like, there has to be some reason why this is so expensive. And I'm not saying it's justified. I'm saying you can trace the retail pricing, right, back to GW, because look at a couple things here. Let's take a look. Let's look at the old Kill Team terrain right here. Here's a printout of the Kill Team configuration for the first box that promptly sold out. You got 8 sprues in it. This has a whopping 17 sprues, 2 of which are, well, one's a half a kit with the barricades, and one is the plasma conduits. Then you've got the Basilicanum, which is $100 retail, which is 7 sprues in various configurations of Kill Team. And then you've got the Sanctorum, or the Sanctum, which is 5 sprues for $75. So it seems like these sprues are worth $15 in this configuration, but 12 and some change in this configuration right here. Actually, a little bit more than that. Interesting. Okay, so as it seems like you get a volume discount, the more that come in the set, they kind of value them less. So now we're talking that this particular kit right here is going to have the columns and walls kit is going to come with 12. From what it looks like, it's going to come with 12 sprues here, which is really, really interesting what they're going to price point this at, because I would imagine this is going to be close to a starter set in and of itself. So this is the official cat strategy pad right here. So it looks like if you can read my chicken scratch here, you're going to get basically 3 sets of gangs in here. Remember, you're going to get one half of one gang and one half of another gang with the corpse grinders. So that equals out to approximately $126. You're going to get a rule book, which could be valued at $50. The thermite plasma set, which is by itself for $35. You get half of a barricade sprue for $18. In theory, the columns and walls, which it isn't 12, excuse me, it's 11 sprues right there for $125. I'm just spitballing. It might be more, it might be less. This is my absolute best guess currently looking through all this stuff day one. And platforms and stairs set for $75. So in theory, this set here for $290 could be worth as much as, or it could be valued at $430 in retail value, which tends to make more sense basically given the way GW bundles things. Not saying it's good, not saying it's bad. I'm saying it starts to make sense once you start looking at other kits like I showed you right there. Now let's talk about the bulkheads. So you're going to get 4 of these bulkhead sprues right here, which is going to give you, excuse me, I'm a liar. You're going to get 4 bulkhead sprues, but they're 2 different sprues. So this is your double bulkhead sprue. Remember, the tops glue on, and it actually comes with 1 double bulkhead, 1 single bulkhead, and then this sprue is going to come with, or excuse me, these are columns. 4 columns. Wait, nope, these are the bulkheads. I was correct. There's a lot of terminology here that all sounds the same. Not that anything else in the Warhammer world ever sounds the same. These are the bulkheads. This is the double bulkhead. It's going to come also with a single bulkhead. And then you get 4 single bulkheads right here for a total of 4. Then you've got 2 of the singles and 1 right there. So it's enough that's in the instructions to kind of show you that thing. This is the doorways, which I think is pretty neat. These go together, and then the door itself kind of slides down. It's got that blast door. It doesn't kind of teeth into each other. It slides down, which we're going to show you because I really want to build some of those, hopefully time permitting. And then there's the terminals that go on the side. So you get 2 of the large doors, 2 of the small doors that kind of go together right there. And there you can see the pieces that slide down. And 6 of these sprues right here, which are the columns. I got ahead of myself right there. But all of these are literally the same sprue. And those 3 sprues of various numbers would form that 1 box set that I was talking about. That will probably be the price of a starter set. You know, going by, that's 11 sprues of GW. But who knows? I'm not sure yet. And then here's the 2 different tops. Actually, they're the same top, but you use them to build those, and then you put these on the side, and you want to make sure you line those up specifically so they'll take the piping that'll interface into it. So, you know, put your piping together, and then you kind of know where to put those so it'll slot into it. So that is all the sprues, that is all the values, that is all the gang members. I'll either be back in one frame to say, okay, that's it, thanks for watching, or I'll show you the table all put together. So we did it. Dramatic pause. It was a Herculean effort. We had Tim the Hobby Helper here just lending a hand because it's literally a ton of sprues. But we took some shortcuts. We'll talk about it here in a second. But there's definitely some stuff I want to tell you first that is very important about this kit. So first off, back to the vinyl top, or the vinyl mat. I was taste testing this just to see, because when you put the columns down on this, you don't want to be jacking up the you know, scratching it and stuff. And even though they have, you know, we tried to shave down the little studs and everything, I was just kind of doing like this and just seeing if it damaged the surface at all, and it doesn't. Like, this is I don't know what this is. It's not like straight vinyl, because I've seen that and it scratches. Whatever this material is, and I'm not exactly sure, it's almost like a, I couldn't even venture a guess, but it is super sturdy. You can, you know, put this plastic and things all over it, and it looks like it'll take some abuse. So don't let the appearance fool you. It seems to be pretty solid. All right, let's talk about some of the design elements real quick, because once I get this set up, and I can't even set up the full 2x2 square here, but it'll give you a good idea. But I wanted to show you some stuff that I thought was pretty impressive from a design standpoint, and you know, an engineering kind of side of things that really impressed me. So first of all, you've got those columns that we were talking about earlier, and then you have the insert pieces right here. Remember, don't glue these in. It's very mission critical. You do not glue these in. So you can either lock these in to kind of hold it together, and you want to be, you know, you want to make sure you get some glue beads down in here, probably just to give some extra strength. And then if you're going double columns, you can flip these around, and this actually gives you the double, and it puts that gap right there. So that's just kind of like some basic stuff. And then some of the other things too is, like when you're putting the flooring on here, like if you just want to do it zone mortalis and build your thing out, that's cool. That's super easy. But then once you start adding your floorings and stuff, that's these sections here, and they just lock in and they give you that space right there. But not only do they give you that space right there, but those also lock into the bulkheads too. So it's like a big Lego set, which is like super interesting. Okay, so the doors, they seem a little wonky when you put them together. You're like, wait, what? This doesn't even make sense. But it does make sense, because once you lock it in between the two pieces here, you'll see that they slide up and down, and they actually, you know, they'll fit in like that. Another thing that I thought was pretty impressive, well, it's from a design standpoint, is the little elevator, the little lifts. You just basically put whatever level you want the little lift, and there's the little rail that goes on the lift, and this is all kind of modular, which is really neat. And then these just lock right into this part right here. And you're not supposed to glue it, and then you just put it right up to there. And I'm sure some of this sits a little bit better with the plastic flooring, but we're about to find out. But I wanted to share these design elements with you before I start setting it all up, in case I forgot something and I'm like, where is it? And I'm like shuffling for it. Also, the floor, or the stairs, are really, really cool. I showed you how like the little dude slot underneath it here, which is cool to see, and I think that's really cool. These little pieces here, you can do a couple different configurations, but they lock in really well. Like, this is actually pretty sturdy. You're supposed to use the little rails to kind of lock it all together. Those are not modular, like this piece right here, where this just kind of put steps on the end. The rails for the stairwells, those you got to glue down, which is kind of unfortunate, but I figure you want your stairs to be sturdy, but this seems pretty sturdy too, so I'm kind of like torn, like, okay. And then you just kind of modular them all together like this, and they actually lock in. See, this forms a little lock, and it slides into this piece right here, and then you're nice and sturdy right like that. I mean, this is not designed to be glued. Like, this is sturdy, and I really, and this is before we even put it on the surface. So I'm sure it locks in even better once we start putting it on the surface, which we're gonna find out here in a second. And then as far as like the landings go, like where is it? Okay, so we got this one right here, and if you just want to do a little landing, it also slides in and locks together. And then you can have whatever else, the other stairwell, here it is. So you can do this, and you can have the other stairwell, and that locks in. And then you can have it something like this if you want, but I think it's supposed to go over that because the little nubs line up right there. So those are just some really interesting design elements that I saw right off the bat as we were putting this all together, that I thought was really, really cool. So now we're gonna lay down the tiles, we're gonna lock it all in and tell you more about it. Whew. Okay, so we got all this put together, and there's a couple more lessons learned just from getting it together. So it's gonna look a little wonky because this surface isn't 100% flat, but everything locks in and everything works well, as far as I can tell. Now, we didn't cut out as many pieces as we should have for like the pieces that go over the bulkheads right here. That I didn't cut out as many, so you'll see some like exposed bulkheads here. Like, this piece would go up here, and then that would lock in, something like that, to make a more flat surface. And because we don't have all the rails and everything, it's top down anyway, so it doesn't super matter, but I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of how it all looks. And the plasma relays, these, depending on how you want to do it, you know, put the mounts right there, and then they can lay flat. I mean, heck, you can even put them up high if you really want to. I wouldn't. I would just glue the relays on, and then you can also put them on the side right there too. But what you do want to be a little bit aware of is putting this little socket in here. Depending on where you want to go, you want to make sure it lines up like on the side of the wall right there, or if there's this other one that's a little higher, you want to make sure that you lock it in a little bit higher on this wall or something like that, just to give you a couple ideas on things to look out for. Also, another thing I noticed, the way it had you put this sub-assembly together, I just went by the diagram in the book, and I kind of got these just like hanging out, and I don't really know what's going on. And also this little sub-assembly here of the stairs doesn't hold its weight over here, so you might have to glue it down. So there might be a little gluing required depending on where you put things, but for the most part it is modular, it is changeable, as long as you don't glue down the tops and don't glue down these pieces that go on the bulkhead. But for these big 3 pieces right here, I would probably not glue any pieces onto them. I mean, this still works because you can do it in a whole bunch of different configurations, and maybe not glue this second stair to it as well. You could kind of keep it a little loose, but I'm not 100% sure on all that. That's just kind of my first takes there. And then the little gantries lock, or the doors lock into the sides, and you can literally pull them and see through them if you want, if you hit the little data pad and it opens up. And then right here in the middle, this is actually a 2-tier, believe it or not. So it's kind of neat to do, and there's still a lot of pieces left over. All these little toppers right here, we've got a ton of these, a ton of the walls, the top rails, all sorts of it, and all the barricades are out, so it looks like the barricades pretty much take up the whole, you know, kind of break up the pattern and things when you start putting down the pipes and things like that. It seems like it's really good placing and really good line of sight blocking, as far as depending on where you put some of the loose pieces as you can. And if you want to go like more 2D and not 3D going high, you could do that too. So it just kind of depends on how you want it right there. And then, I mean, it holds the guys just fine. Like, you don't have to worry about that. Like, they'll sit up here, and as long as you have things, you know, locked in really well on the sides, they're not going to go anywhere, and they can sit in the little stairwells and stuff too. So you just kind of got to be careful how you do it. But I think with a little bit of planning, and maybe don't glue down the pieces to these top bulkheads, you should be okay for the most part. And then these actually go over top of that right there. So these pop off, and these actually get you your double stack. Or if you want to do it like over here, it'll have a little spacer in it. But either way, they end up being about the same height. So far, everything appears to be well thought out as far as design goes. Maybe a little faux pas on the instructions, but I've given you my thoughts on durability, interchangeability, pricing as best as I can. There is some logic to it. It doesn't seem thrown together. It makes more sense getting my hands on it for the price point in GW money. I mean, it's still $300, y'all. Like, this is $300, but it's not crap. And it is a solid product, but it's $300. So at the end of the day, is it worth $300 of your hobby dollars? That's for you to decide. But I can tell you right now, they thought this one out pretty well. I'm impressed with the design. I like the way they did the figures. Now, of course, not everything's going to go together apples to apples, 100% for value. But if you're like, yo, Necromunda is my thing, Zone Mortalis is my thing, I just want some terrain, $290 plus the $65 floor set, and this is what you have right here. Solid product. Is it worth your hobby dollars? That's for you to decide. So thanks for watching this unbox and review. Make sure to head over to Miniature Market or Dice Head Games, where you can get your hobbies for less, of course, all day, every day. And hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you can be the very first to like and comment on all our videos.